Just had to double check that I was indeed recording because this is the first time I'm ever doing this. This is the first time I am actually recording a video that is going to go on YouTube. And I know it's not going to be amazing. I know it's not going to be edited in this crazy way, but I just want to share and I just want to take you along with me as I'm processing what I'm going through and let this be my first draft. And it's a draft that I know I'll probably eventually look back on and think, this is cringe, but I'm doing it anyway. We're embracing the cringe. So, this video and hopefully what will become this series is going to be an experiment, and it's going to be me just testing the waters and showing up and seeing if this type of information resonates with my community and seeing how I can also just express myself as I am going through a transitional period in my business. And I've been intentionally kicking this whole transitional period down the curb. I got married earlier this year. As of now, it's been exactly a month since we got married, or 4 weeks rather. And I had told myself, even though I know I'm ready for some growth in my business, or I'm ready for something new, or I'm ready to try new things and test the waters, I'm going to do that after the wedding, or I don't have enough capacity to think about what that is right now. And now that it's after the wedding, it's officially time to start doing it and start thinking about it and start exploring and start trying new things. So, this is all part of that process. Recently, I shared on Instagram that I am feeling a sense of having outgrown the title of relationship anxiety coach, which is something that I have called myself for the last 5 years. It's been part of my identity. It's been a key part of the work that I do with clients and with my community, the key thing that I share about. And recently, I feel like I have outgrown that. I feel like I have outgrown just speaking about relationship anxiety or just speaking about anxiety. And even though I've built a brand around this for the last 5 years or so, it feels like time to spread my wings and expand in some way. And right now, what's feeling more exciting for me is the urge to talk about and to help people with things that are also inspiring for them, not just trying to shift or transform away from the hard stuff or the anxiety or the fear or the worry or all of those patterns, but really how to step into what's next. So, stepping into a more fulfilled experience in your relationship or life, or a more joyful experience, experiencing more creativity, tapping into a sense of deeper self-trust and self-confidence, and actually getting back into the life that you're living. Because ultimately, what I have found is that anxiety and relationship anxiety, or whatever you're experiencing, whatever struggle you're going through, it can tend to make our world feel so small because that's really the only thing we're focusing on. But when we have a little bit more space in our body, in our mind, in our brain, when we have a little bit more space, when we're not focused on thinking about something all the time, for example, anxiety in our relationship, then we have more space to focus on other things, such as hobbies or creativity or our careers or friendships or things that maybe we hadn't been giving as much energy to. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing more about these things, even though my brain has been trying to tell me that these things are all too different from what I've been sharing about for the last 5 years. But we're not listening to that part of my brain anymore. We're not listening to that part that says you can only share about one thing for the rest of your life, which is relationship anxiety. We aren't listening. La la la. So it's time to take this next step and to start documenting my journey to sharing other things. And I figured YouTube would be a fun place to do that because I still am somewhat new over YouTube, and it feels like a place where I can just document and share. And I'm making a commitment by doing this video to just stop overthinking and start doing, because this isn't the first time that I've told myself I think I'm ready to expand beyond just talking about relationship anxiety, but it's the first time I'm actually taking steps towards doing anything about it, because it was always easier to just keep doing what was familiar and keep doing business as usual, so to speak, because that's what I've known and that's what I've come to connect with people about, and that's what I feel like resonates with a lot of people. And so it was always easier to just revert back to what I had always been doing. And it was, I would say, a form of fear, just trying to stay in the place that I knew was already working well. And so even though I'm stepping into an unknown, this is, I know what's necessary for the next step of growth for me. And the thing that is a little bit intimidating is I don't know the what or the how quite yet. I don't know exactly what I'm going to call myself if I don't call myself a relationship anxiety coach. I don't know what my bio on Instagram is going to say. I don't know what the next thing I want to offer to people in the form of maybe a digital course or a group program or like something that I can do to help people. I don't know what that will be, but I know that something is coming. And tomorrow, at the time of recording this, I'm recording this on, what day is it? Friday, June 6th. At the time of recording this, tomorrow is my 5-year anniversary of pressing post on my very first Instagram post for You Love and You Learn, which is crazy to think about, that it's already been half of a decade since I started this little venture. And that first post 5 years ago was me taking people along for the ride of learning about love, learning about relationships. And I don't think that my desire to learn about love or relationships is ever going to necessarily go away, but I'm just ready to learn about love in other forms and relationships in other forms, like the relationship we have with ourselves, the relationship we have with our creativity, the relationship that we have with other people besides just a romantic partner, the love that we can have for certain parts of our life outside of just relationships. And I'm reflecting as I come to this 5-year anniversary point about how the creative juices feel like they just haven't been flowing as much as they were in the beginning of my business. Now, I do think that it's normal to feel like after doing something quite similarly for 5 years or so, that it's probably not going to feel like it did in the beginning. It's the same as in a long-term relationship. The quote honeymoon phase, if we do have a honeymoon phase, might not necessarily feel the same 10 years later, right? And we can ebb and flow in and out of different honeymoon phases with our business, with our life, with our creativity. But lately, I've definitely been feeling like I've been in a major ebb when it comes to creativity in my business and in other parts of my life as well. And I think there are a lot of examples of this, of where the creative juices just haven't quite been flowing. Like, there's been times where I've just been sharing the same story about my journey with relationship anxiety over and over again. I've been repeating a similar type of social media post over and over again because I'm just defaulting to what I think will work well or what has worked before. I'm finding myself feeling like I have to keep up with social media trends, or if someone's doing this style of post, then maybe I should try that. Or if someone's jumping on this trend, maybe I should jump on that trend. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I think that that's a fun part of social media sometimes. But when my brain is on autopilot and just doing something because I saw someone else doing it on social media, that doesn't feel creative to me. Or if I feel like maybe there's a certain type of marketing that I should be doing, for example, like you should have a podcast, you should have an email list, you should be doing this on Instagram. There's a lot of ways where I feel like I haven't necessarily tuned in lately to what I want to be doing, but it's more so this is a way that would help you grow a business. And I've just been taking that insight on from coaches or online mentors or whatever it is. And I think that that's been great to a degree. It's gotten me where it's gotten me, which has been building a really great community of people and getting to help hundreds, if not now thousands of people with relationship anxiety. But it's come at a cost where I feel like lately, because I'm sharing a lot of the same things, or because I'm just getting so much input from social media or from other resources, I realize I don't have as much creative energy about what I want to do in my business. So I feel like there are some times where I sit down and I feel blocked and I have no idea what I even want to share. Or I feel like I am just going through my week on autopilot, sometimes checking off a to-do list of things that I think are the right thing to be doing for business, but I'm not quite sure that they are like lighting me up in the same way that they used to. Now, please don't get me wrong. There are so many things that continue to light me up about this business, connecting with my clients, connecting with my community members, getting to help people. Like that's at the core of why I want to keep doing what I'm doing and to keep sharing what I'm sharing. But I also want to feel really connected to what I am sharing, and that has definitely dimmed down for sure. So, all of this to say, it can feel and has been feeling really uncomfortable for me to admit that I want something to change, but not necessarily knowing exactly what that is and how it's going to actually manifest and what it looks like. And I think that just because something is needing to change doesn't mean that everything has to change. But when we admit like something just isn't quite clicking or flowing how it used to, that can be really tough because that means what do I need to do about it? Do I need to make some changes? And what are those changes? And how will it look? And the thing that's important for me, especially in this uncertain season, is to not get into black or white thinking. Because black or white thinking says, if I'm feeling this way, then I have to burn it all down and just completely quit and do something totally different. And that black or white thinking in my relationship used to sound like if something's not working, then it must mean that this is the wrong relationship and I have to leave. Whereas there's usually a lot of gray area in between that. Usually, even if something is not quite flowing or clicking in a relationship, then we can take inventory. We can say, what is it that doesn't feel like it's flowing or clicking right now? How can I reflect on my needs? How can I communicate my needs better? How can me and my partner try to get back on a similar page here? We don't have to just rush to end a relationship just because something isn't flowing or clicking in the way that it used to. And even though I am not in a relationship necessarily with my business, you can kind of see it in the same way that you would be like in a relationship with your partner. I need to reflect and understand when it comes to my business and how I connect with my business, just like how I connect with Nate and how I connect with a partner. What are the things that aren't flowing and how can I really check in with what my needs are and how can I just be as honest as possible with letting myself reflect on what this next evolution of the business can be without burning the whole thing to the ground. So without further ado, the point of this video, other than me just sharing a little bit of where I'm at, is that I'm craving more creativity back into my business. I'm craving to try and see if by tapping into my inner creativity, I will be able to build more of a sense of self-trust in the next chapter of Where You Love and You Learn is. And in order to tap into my creativity more, at the recommendation of many people, some of them are just online friends and some of them are people I've never even met, but at this recommendation of many people and just the book popping up, it seems like everywhere in my consciousness lately, I have decided to start The Artist's Way, a book by Julia Cameron. And I'm hoping that in going through the 12-week process of the Artist's Way that I'm able to really tap into my inner artist just generally, but then bringing some more like artistry and creativity, for lack of a better word, into You Love and You Learn Again. And I'm using these video diaries, if you will, of the Artist's Way and my initial experience of it as the accountability to really continue going through the 12 weeks, because 12 weeks is actually, it's not that long in the grand scheme of life, but it is a long time to make a commitment. And there's definitely a good amount of intentionality that goes into going through the Artist's Way, whether you do every single thing recommended in the Artist's Way or whether you're just doing it at the bare minimum level, like my friends MJ and Anna did. They are the co-founders of a company called Internet People, and they actually did a 12-week podcast series about going through the Artist's Way, but they did the bare minimum Artist's Way. So they didn't necessarily do every single thing that was recommended in the book, but they just made the point to read it and work together on reflecting about it and sharing their thoughts. And I told myself that no matter what, I will do the bare minimum Artist's Way. But if I'm able to and I have the capacity to, I will push myself out of my comfort zone to try and do the full spectrum, if you will, of the Artist's Way. And there's a few components of it. So the first piece is reading the chapters of the book, and there's 12 different chapters. And the second element is morning pages, which are 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing. Now, the author Julia Cameron talked about how what people get stuck on with morning pages, and I already found myself doing this for the first couple days, is they try to write the morning pages instead of just letting their thoughts flow in a stream of consciousness. And I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I definitely think I do this sometimes when it comes to journaling or just trying to get my thoughts out of my brain. It almost feels like I am trying to think of how to write it in a way that would sound good. So what I'm going to work on over these next 12 weeks is, one, trying to do my morning pages whenever I can, but also not being hard on myself if I miss some days. However, when I get to do morning pages, I'm really going to try not to worry about what's coming out onto the page and really just try to let my brain ramble if it needs to, and trust that there's no wrong way to do it, which she also says in the book. And then the next and main component of the Artist's Way is taking yourself on one weekly artist date, which is just anything that you can do to tap into your creativity more. So going to a thrift store and giving yourself a budget of $10 or less and seeing what you can find, or putting an outfit together, or going to an art show, or going on a hike somewhere you've never been before and seeing if you can catch the sunrise or sunset there. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy expensive things, but I am going to do my best. Again, I don't have to do it perfectly, but I'm going to do my best to try and do some of the morning pages and the artist dates just to see how I can further use them to tap into my creativity. And the reason I was inspired to do this YouTube series and document all of this, I have not yet watched any of these, but Doechii, the rapper and the singer who won a Grammy this year, she might have won more than one, don't come at me if I don't know the exact information, but I know she won a Grammy, and she went through the Artist's Way back in 2020 and documented her thoughts and experiences of the Artist's Way on YouTube as well. I have not watched the videos because I don't want her thoughts to become my thoughts, but I figured that it would be a really cool way just to look back on my own experience with this process and grappling with all the information in this transformation, in this next evolution of You Love and You Learn, and in stepping into what it means to be more of my inner artist and creative. This first video is really just me kind of declaring my intentions to go through the Artist's Way and to kind of get honest and vulnerable of where I'm at in my process with tapping into creativity, and just acknowledging that I'm feeling a little bit blocked. And if you're feeling the same way, knowing that you're not alone, or if you're feeling like you're constantly getting sucked into scrolling instead of doing some of the hobbies make you feel good, or if you feel like some days you're just going through the motions and life feels just kind of meh. Like, I think that a lot of us can actually relate to these things, but we're just too scared to talk about it. And so I just want to make the unspoken spoken here and share some of these things and take you all along for the ride. And I haven't fully gotten even through the first chapter yet. I'm going to do, I think, chapter recaps at the end of each chapter that I go through and share what I'm learning and share what I'm taking away from it. But after having just gone through the introduction of the artist way, something that really stood out to me that I think is important and that I want to try and hold on to is this idea that we all have creativity as a baseline and foundation of what it means to be human. And if we feel blocked from creativity, it's not because we aren't creative. It's because there are likely protective mechanisms that are keeping us from tapping into our creativity. Things like messages from family or friends, or worrying of what people might think of us, or feeling embarrassed to look like we're doing something cringy, or not willing to make mistakes, or the low self-esteem, or the inner critic, or the perfectionist, or the comparison mode. All of these things are what's blocking us from our creativity, but our creativity is still there. It's still tucked away, and it's about removing some of these creative blocks and letting our creativity come up to the surface. The reason I love this notion about creativity that I even just picked up on in the first introduction pages of The Artist Way, I connect with that message so much because I believe the same thing is true about love. And that's what I've come to believe over these last 5 years, and what I've been literally yapping about on Instagram for the last 5 years, and in my blog and in my podcast and all of the things, is that we have so much love to give and receive, and we all have the capability to show up with a lot more love for ourselves and for our partners and for friends and family and all the things. But oftentimes what makes it feel like that love is blocked or stuffed down or tucked away are these protective mechanisms, the things that block creativity in the same exact way. Worrying what people will think about us, past beliefs or experiences that we've had that make us not feel safe around love and relationships, worrying the other shoe will drop, not feeling good enough, comparing ourselves to other people and other relationships, perfectionism, getting caught in the idea that unless we do it perfectly, we can't do it at all. So these are the exact same things that are holding back creativity and are also holding back more love in our life. And so I'm hoping that through this process of going through the artist way, I can not only wake up the inner artist within me, but wake up even more love and open-heartedness for myself, for my business again, for the work that I do, even probably in my relationships with other people as well. And so even though I am no expert on creativity or love even, I think that's a really cool takeaway, is just to remember that each of us have an inner artist and an inner lover tucked in somewhere inside of us, and that those are allowed to come out. Our inner lover, our inner intimate parts, our inner creative, our inner artists, those are allowed to come out, and we are allowed to practice removing those barriers so that we can just show up in our most fulfilled way and our most full selves, and not feeling like we have to do it perfectly or that we need to get it right, but just allowing ourselves to try. And it may feel awkward or uncomfortable to start embracing this inner lover or this inner creative, especially if we've shoved it down for so long. But it feels so, so important to try. And that's exactly why I wanted to create this video and this video series, to tap more into those things and to take you along for my journey, tapping into my inner artist and my inner lover girl. I've always considered myself a fairly creative person, but I don't know if I would ever have called myself an artist until being exposed to this book and the idea that all of us can be artists in our own way. So let's see how I feel about calling myself an artist after the next 12 weeks. And I'd love this to be interactive if possible. So if you are still watching and you feel like you've tapped into your inner artist or your inner creative self in certain ways, definitely leave me a comment. I would love to hear below what are some of the ways that you let your inner artist out? What are some of the ways that you tap into your creativity? I have a pretty regular ceramics practice, and I've been doing that for the last year and a half, and I've been loving it. Definitely such a humbling hobby, but it's really enjoyable, and it feels like when you get to bring home something you're really proud of, so rewarding. I also have been on and off with watercolors. It's something that I don't feel like I have a regular practice of doing, but perhaps in the artist way, I'll tap into that more. Some of the other things that I'd like to get a little bit better at, and I've been wanting to dabble in, are kind of getting more creative with the types of food that I'm making or certain recipes. Like, I really, really, really want to perfect my at-home iced matcha latte. Like, I love a good matcha latte, and I feel like there's so many tutorials of how to make one and how to make it really yummy instead of always needing to go out and get one. So I would love to figure out how to cook a really yummy, juicy, flavorful steak at home, because I feel like Nate and I kind of get a little bit, I don't like this word, but we get a little lazy with it and we just throw it in the air fryer, and it can be good but not great. And I feel like there's so many better ways to cook it. When we were on our honeymoon, we were eating so much yummy steak, and I feel like I could definitely help bring some of creativity into the kitchen with that. And then I also really want to learn how to make focaccia bread, because I love focaccia bread. Oh my gosh, like focaccia bread with a little bit of seasoning and like maybe some rosemary and sea salt and olive oil. Oh, so, so good. So those are some things that I'm hoping to embrace a little bit more over these next 12 weeks, is creativity in the form of cooking, or cooking as a form of creativity. Which one will it be? So I would love to know if you have any of your favorite recipes for those things, or if you have any favorite just routines, rituals, practices that help you tap into your creativity, or any hobbies that help you tap into your inner artist that I need to try. Definitely leave a comment below. I would love to hear it. And if you have any questions about how to tap into more of your creativity or your inner artist, or questions for me as I'm going through this process, drop me a comment as well. I'd love to hear more and carry all of you with me along for this ride. So thank you so much for being here. If you liked this video, definitely feel free to subscribe to Love and You Learn on YouTube, and looking forward to coming back for week 1 of The Artist Way.